Good morning. Happy Monday. Thank you all for joining us for another real edition of Real Estate Backstory. Every Monday, we go through the stuff underbelly of real estate and bring everybody to the news as far as what's going on in our industry. And this weekend, past Friday has been hot.
Oh, has it
So,
ever been hot? Yeah.
yes.
Lots of things to talk about kind of thing.
So,
Matter of fact, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in to the main topic of the day, and that's going to be the National Association of Realtors has settled their $418 million commission lawsuit. And so this is a lawsuit that originally started in Missouri, honestly has like nothing to do with Georgia overall for the most part. And honestly, like I believe that we all knew NAR was going to lose, largely because laws in Missouri were that I mean, and the licensing laws there were if you had paid a listing agent, you were required to pay the buyer's
buyer
agent
broker.
the same amount. And so, that's basically forcing sellers. Now in Georgia, we're a RESPA state. Our sellers have always been able to not offer a buyer's co-op. So it's not like this is, anything that's not something.
It's not like we
Right.
follow Missouri's guideline and state regulation.
Yeah.
So it does not apply.
But NAR decided to settle, which I understand. But there's all sorts of changes here that sorry, I have to sorry, we have to stop that over there because
Sorry. So make the long story short is that we do not here in Georgia, we do not practice.
Yep.
Okay, the way Missouri does. And therefore the basis for their lawsuit is totally different for what they're trying to do, what we call copycatters here in
Yeah.
Georgia.
So, but the whole idea with this lawsuit, like with the settlement, it caused a lot of like they've agreed to several changes in industry standards
Correct.
that overall has thrown a lot of the real estate industry kind of on its head. It's really kind of caused a lot of
Anxiety.
confusion, and are there changes coming? You better believe it. So there's things happening, but you know what? Every time that as an industry, we faced a lot of adversity over. And gosh, in the time that we've been there, and even before we were in real estate, and you know what? We are still really, really strong. We have a lot of benefits going forward, and I just don't want people to get this defeatist attitude. But now let's go through what did the settlement really state. And so the first thing is that it released liability from NAR members and industry stakeholders, with the exception of Home Services of America, basically Berkshire Hathaway. They were still holding out, and they are kind of the last one still standing as far as all that goes. Most everybody else is settled now that NAR has settled as well.
And honestly, I think NAR did this for its own member because multiple brokerages throughout the United States were being sued, even the boutique one. And honestly, they did it, whereas a parent company, they felt like this is the best way of doing it and make it go away at some point. But they still feel like there's no wrongdoing their part.
Well, NAR continues to deny any wrongdoing in there. And so, but there are a couple of things that they agreed to. Now, I've heard some people say, well, can they really agree to this? Look, NAR kind of dictates a lot of policy for everything in the United for all real estate transactions in the United States. All of our GAR contracts, are directed out of. I mean, like we take leads from there. We don't have to follow
It's
that.
like having Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans. Okay, different mortgage broker going to interpret their standards and their ruling a little differently. So Georgia was definitely one that we abide by RESPA and umbrella, and so we do not apply.
No, we don't, but we know that this is going to affect Georgia too. And
Absolutely.
that's the thing. Don't act like, well, it won't, we're not going to do it. Yes, we are. Okay,
well,
just accept that these changes are going to happen.
And perception is reality, y'all. And whether or not if we did, even though we didn't have no wrongdoing in Georgia, but the fact is media is a superpower when they come to influence of
Well,
perception.
but one of the biggest deals out there, so we have two real big things that NAR agreed to that are going to cause kind of a shift in how we do business.
Correct.
The first is that there is now a new MSO rule that prohibits broker compensation in the MLS. The MLS will no longer be able to offer brokers cooperation in it, how much that is. Now, it doesn't prohibit sellers from offering or negotiating to pay for the buyer's brokerage commission, but it cannot be listed in the MLS. So that's our first big seismic shift, right? Because we went from having where all the commissions were used to be you couldn't find them. Then they had to
not visible to the public,
Yep.
and now that was visible to the public, so the buyer know exactly based on their agreement with their buyer's agent if any deficiency.
But that's going away, right? So like understand that now the MLS won't show that at all. That doesn't mean that sellers still don't have the option and shouldn't be offering to pay it. We'll get into that in a second. And then the other thing that's going to be really kind of altering for us is that MLS participants. So if you are in an MLS, which is basically all of us, then any buyers that you work with, you must have a written buyer's agreement prior to showing. Okay. Now, this is a big change because in the past, we've seen so many agents that would just like, I'll fill it out when I get on, like when I submit the contract. No, the rule is you have to be in a written buyer agreement prior to showing. Now, all these changes are looking to go into effect mid-July. And they are still subject to court approval kind of thing. So fundamentally, there's some, like there's no real core changes to a lot of things. However, in the way that we do business, there are some changes that we need to address how that's going to go here. And so we have to understand, first of all, that the news is interpreting this.
It's been all over this
completely different.
Absolutely.
So like CNN reported that the 6% commission on buying and selling a home is gone. Okay, that's just garbage.
Y'all, that's like saying that, hey, your industry is no longer valid. For a newscaster to say, hey, industry, you're gone. That is totally ludicrous.
Well, also, there's never been a 6% thing, right? And a 6% commission on buying and selling almost implies like it's 6% to buy and 6% to sell. No, that's not the case, right? And so actual fees range from like 2.4 to 2.7 is kind of the national average for like the last 8 or 9 years. Side. It hasn't been a 6% commission kind of thing. The Wall Street Journal said realtors reach settlement that will change how Americans buy and sell homes. I don't see it. And the New York Times said NAR agrees to slash commissions to settle. All right.
These are headlines, guys.
These are headlines. NPR, a major settlement could spell the end to 6% real estate commissions. And the Washington Post said home prices will drop from the settlement. So first of all, we're not in charge of home prices. We don't dictate home prices.
Appraisal does.
Well, and not only that, like home value appreciation is not driven by realtor fees, right?
Correct.
Like our commissions are not why home prices have gone up. Supply, demand,
and there's
availability of product,
6% set fee as well.
Well, and you I mean, it's very easy for the government to point fingers at us for the reason why home prices are high, instead of actually looking at inflation and those kind of things that have really caused it to be that way. All these things like it's very easy to make us suddenly to be the bad guys. And
the news are doing a very good job of that now.
We don't want you to hold your head low, right? We need you to hold your head high because the reason that housing in the United States is so strong is because of us. Right. Because we are advocates for personal property rights. We are advocates for homeownership.
It's about your legacy and your wealth.
Wealth in the United States is tied up in homeownership.
Absolutely. And, saying that there's no more buyer representation, I think that's wrong because how else is buyer to know how to navigate through this murky water sometime? Because if you have a very experienced seller, they will take the buyer to out to dry.
Yeah, more folks use a realtor now than ever before. We are crucial to the transaction because I don't care if it's your first house or your 10th house, it's the most expensive asset that you've ever owned.
Absolutely.
And do you do that like without representation, without someone looking out for you?
Like my comparison last week, we pay $7.99 on iPhone per month. Okay, for $1,000 worth of product. Why wouldn't you use a realtor to protect your asset? And not only that, this is us asking the newscaster, say, hey, your information should be public service, therefore you should do your job for free. No, we don't do that. So there is value in what we do and how we got our clients.
Okay, so first of all, like I said, first of all, like 3 times. What I really want you to understand is we will adapt. We always adapt.
Absolutely.
And yes, does this create a challenge? Yes. What else does this create? Opportunities. So
it's a mindset.
If you choose to, oh no, this guy is falling, we're never gonna like real estate is done. Well, then that's you and your business, right?
Correct.
Then you've decided that that's what needs to happen.
You guys,
we aren't going down like that.
It's a mindset.
Yep.
If you can look at this in a different perspective, and most of all, educate your client so they understand the value they're getting. I think that's the biggest key, y'all, because at the same time, as a first-time home buyer, they have no clue what is expected.
Well, let's talk about how this impacts buyers, sellers. Then we're going to talk about how it impacts agents as well. So how it impacts buyers. First of all, written representation is required in order to show a home. And so there's a lot of questions that are going to arise out of that. And my biggest challenge with this one is that we have to be able to provide value before we ask for buyer representation. My biggest concern is that buyers could go to unrepresented, and in turn
they get their clock cleaned.
They're going to get taken advantage
of. They're the real losers. And what about buyer protection? I mean, there's none.
Now, on the positive side, mandatory buyer representation means that they can't bounce around.
So realtor, please do your job, because there are some, I do know in the past, not now, I haven't seen it much, that think that all we do is basically show homes, write a contract, and get a fat check at closing. And that's not the case.
My concern is that my VA buyers are at risk.
Absolutely.
Like who's looking out for our VA buyers? Our first-time buyers are at risk.
And these are our folks that protect us, and yet we can't protect them in this aspect.
And then at the same time, home buying costs, the cost of buying a home, potentially increase. And so I feel that the largest risk is to the buyers right now. And we need to be the ones who are advocating for our buyers and protecting our buyers as well as our sellers. But I mean, like this, this settlement potentially harms our buyers, and we need to be the ones who are actually protecting our buyers. Now, for our sellers, first of all, let me state that this doesn't change anything until mid-July, right? And so the settlements, and I mean the contracts that we have, the agreements that we currently have, they're all in place right now. So all this is months away. So
even then, as we know, sometimes rulings changes between time it's being proposed versus the time it's finalized. So, be active, know what's going on in the industry, and understand how the change is going to impact you as a business person.
Now, for our sellers, they may feel like they hold all the cards, but we need to have very serious conversations about cooperative percents and that kind of stuff. Because as well as, I don't know anyone that's selling and not buying. So when they turn around and buy,
same boat.
They're the buyers, right? And so are they prepared to do the exact same thing that they want to do to that buyer? Like it's great for us to think, you know what? I won't have to pay a commission when I sell. And when I buy, I won't have to. Okay. That's it. And so are they prepared to come out of pocket the exact same way? We have to make sure that we're explaining really how things work. Not only that, there's there's a potential for appraisal issues down the road for our sellers on here. If when you say, oh well, commissions aren't part of it, well, they've been part of it.
Well, if you think about it, the cost of purchasing a product is part of that commission. So therefore, the appraisal value somewhat is tied, to selling that product.
Now, for my buyer's agents, how does this impact buyer's agents? First thing is, it has to be more than a transaction. Agents have to work on relationships, and the agents who build relationships are going to be just fine. As long as you're more than a door opener, you're going to be in really good shape, right? For the folks that don't do a good job, that are just, like you can smell commission on their breath, it's going to be a tough time for them. I'm just being straight up.
They just want the leads and not really develop the relationship. Y'all, this is our industry. Our industry is all about relationship.
Well, and speaking of leads, for buyer leads, like I know we've got a couple of months to go, but for Zillow, Realtor.com, all these kind of leads in the future, you're going to have a written agreement to show a home.
Correct.
And if that buyer doesn't trust you yet, how can you show that home? If they won't sign that agreement, then you can't show the home. And no one, like the last thing I want to ever do is force someone, if you sign this paper, I'll show you a home. And that's a really big concern out there. We have to be providing value before we get a buyer brokerage agreement signed. And so you need to set up appointments like this is going to be a fundamental change. Before you show property, you're going to have to set up an in-person appointment with your buyers to sit down, and you're going to have to go through your buyer's presentation. And if you don't have one, use ours, right? But you got to go through the buyer's presentation, provide value, build trust, and then you can go out and show properties. Now, for my for my VA buyers, you're gonna, and for agents representing veterans, you're gonna have to send over the commission agreements before showing. And the same for any of our buyers that can't afford to pay out of pocket for commissions. So we're gonna have to be sending those over prior to showing. And is this a giant pain in the butt? Sure is. Like I'm just being straight up. Listing agents are going to have to make sure they're answering their phones, and they got to be ready for hundreds of phone calls and text messages and emails, because we can't put that in the MLS. And our VA buyers can't physically pay for their commissions. Honestly, the last people I want to go unrepresented is a veteran. Right. That hurts my heart.
Absolutely.
And so we also have the rights to the ability to send over SS 619 and SS 620 with the contract itself. And we have to understand that like we're going to be negotiating commissions the same way that we negotiated closing costs and earnest money amounts and closing dates and home inspections and repairs. This is going to become another point of negotiation. And so buyer's agents, we just have to understand this is the world that we're in right now. We're going to have to start sending that over. Now, for my listing agents, our conversations with the sellers need to be different. We have to have a very honest conversation. Exactly. And so our sellers, you do not have to offer a buyer's co-op. You don't, but it's going to be requested either beforehand or with the contract. You need to let your sellers know, listen, yes, you don't have to offer one, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to be requested in advance, or it's going to be requested at the time of contract. It's going to happen. So be prepared. Yes, this becomes another negotiation point. It's something that as a listing agent, it's going to be one more thing that comes off our net to seller that's already part of our net to seller right this minute. So we need to make sure our sellers understand, listen, buying a home is the most expensive investment for most Americans. Buying a home without representation is foolhardy, and mistakes are expensive and life-changing. So no one wants to go into a transaction unrepresented. Most of our buyers need to finance their agent's commission because they don't have cash in hand to cover that in the vast majority of cases. And our VA buyers can't pay a commission.
What I foresee too sometime with this new process, unrepresented buyers, it wouldn't surprise me if there's more a buyer consumer protection lawsuit because they're being taken advantage of.
Well, listing agents, a big question that you have to ask yourself now is, are you willing to work for free? Are you willing to do twice the work for nothing? And so as a listing agent, are you going to charge the same for an unrepresented buyer as the work that you do for sellers, right? And so are you going to say, you know what? I represent the seller, a buyer comes unrepresented. Are you going to do that work for free? Are you going to charge a discount rate? If so, how much? I mean, like this becomes, are you going to charge your standard? Like I normally charge X amount to list a home. If a buyer comes, what is that going to be? Or is that something that that you think is going to be free? Because this is one of those things that the general public out there thinks that the buyer's agent, the only thing they do is they find me a house, and I looked on Zillow and I found one anyway. What a bunch of bull. And then what about the potential liability? I mean, like, first of all, there's so many things that buyer's agents do for their buyers. And you as a listing agent, now you have to fit those roles or fill those shoes. And so now you're working for both parties. Yes, one's going to be a client. Your seller's always going to be your client. The other one's going to be a customer. But with that doesn't come, I mean, it doesn't come that you don't have any responsibilities.
You do have responsibility. This is what I'm talking about as far as a lawsuit, potential lawsuit, when that is the case, where buyer protection will say, you as an expert, why would you do this? So once again, there's a lot of ramification on this. And at the end of the day, it's about educating your client and let them know that the proper way of doing it to avoid future issues.
Well, as a listing agent, are you prepared to handle the liability that comes with representing a buyer and your seller? Even if that buyer is a customer, what happens if, hey, you know what? You didn't tell me to get a radon inspection because you represented the seller.
Right.
And now I just found out my house is high in radon. But you know what? You were representing the seller. You weren't representing me. You didn't care about me. What about future lawsuits and these kind of things? We have to be prepared to have that kind of conversation. And to do that for nothing, to think that you would have to take on that amount of liability, or that there's not going to be any co-op for that is, I think, silly, right? Because like these are real life things that we're going to have to deal with over the next several months in preparation for this. So right now, everything is all a buzz. There's so much conversation about what's going on right now, and a lot of things we don't necessarily know. But what we're doing is trying to help you handle it and navigate that right now. So in the future, our listing agents going to be dealing with a lot more buyers. Maybe open houses could be crazy off the chain, right? What are we going to do about compensation for unrepresented buyers? And honestly, can you even, with this new rule, can you show your listing without a buyer agency agreement? We don't even know that yet. That's one of those things that we have to kind of work out.
You can do a customer acknowledgement.
Well, you can, but again, we, like these are, like there's all sorts of potential pitfalls moving forward and that kind of
every
stuff.
scenario is different, so not everyone's the same.
So we don't want to draw. We're not trying to make this the world is falling. We don't feel that at all. Are we going to have to alter the way that we do business a little bit?
Absolutely.
Sure, we absolutely are. We have months to figure this out. Over the next several months, there's going to be lots of things that come, but no matter what, we need to be focused on bringing value first. All right. It's about relationships with our people. I don't care if you're a buyer's agent, if you're a seller's agent, doesn't matter. Bring value first. Now, we are going to have to be updating our buyer presentations. We're going to have to be updating our listing presentations. We're updating the ones that we provide for agents as well. Please do not go out and dump NAR or GAR. All right. We need our GAR form.
In fact, the GAR form is written to protect you, the agent and the broker. And it's because, when we first started with GAR form, I remember when I first started with them, there's only 4 pages. Now we're up to 10. The reason why we're up to 10 is because legal issues, not issue that we created, but issue and clear communication as well expectations. Yep. So this is why GAR forms, if you're not a member NAR, which I'm okay with, but I do believe you do need to get a GAR form just to protect yourself.
Yes.
It's a small investment for your business. There's no reason why you wouldn't do that.
All right. Now, there are some other things coming down the pike, and we don't know the outcome of these.
There's talk.
Yeah.
There's nothing in concrete. So in the Freddie and Fannie Mac are currently negotiating our commission, tongue twister, to be financed in.
Yeah, so Fannie and Freddie are in negotiations of can commissions be negotiated into the purchase price? And if so, how much is it and how does that work? So right now, Fannie and Freddie is
But
in
they can't dictate how
negotiation.
much it is because that's
Well,
German antitrust law.
well, they
They
can.
can set a percentage maximum, but they can't tell you what that percentage is going to be.
Right. So, and then VA. VA is in negotiations. What does this do for our veteran buyers? Because this changes the landscape for our veteran buyers. And do I think that VA is going to have to change the rules? I do, kind of thing. And then GAR contracts, GAR form
Be on
changes.
lookout for a mid-year
GAR
change.
mid-year change is going to be off the hook, y'all. Okay, there's going to be so many mid-year changes. It's going to be like a whole new thing on several things. So
applaud the ladies and gentlemen that work in that GAR committee because that's a no small task.
Yep. Now there was while we're on the same kind of topic here, there was a study out that said how much profit do you make on a sale of a recent home? And guess what? Folks make more money. Well, more people made over $100,000 or made up to $100,000 with a realtor than without a realtor. I mean, significantly more.
There's 8% that actually lost their money. That's because they probably refi and cannot afford. But without a realtor, there was 25% that actually lost their money. So when clients feel like they know the industry more than the people actually practice in it, typically do lose more.
Yeah, exactly. Now, not only that, there was also another study out here, and this was done from BAM, and so they said if listing and buyer agents' commissions are divorced or uncoupled, how do you view this? And roughly a little over a third said, it'll be a challenge to navigate, but we're gonna be okay. Another third was actually excited about it. Like, you know what? These are industry changes that we need to have. So basically 2/3 are like, we're going to work with it and this is good. Only a third of agents were like, oh no, the sky is falling. And what we can tell you about that is that if you have decided that these changes are going to knock your business down, they absolutely will.
Absolutely.
We see this every time there's a market shift. Every time there's a change in our industry, we see where agents have decided that things are different now and they don't change their business. They just slowly wither away and die. And is there a potential for that to happen in here? Sure is.
Absolutely.
And if you've decided that this is going to cause the demise of your real estate career, it completely will. So don't decide that.
Hey, y'all, change is good because if you look at what we did way back in 1800, I mean, there was no rules. It was a wild, wild west. Now we practice with more civility and also more ethics.
Yep. Now, mortgage rates down again. So for the past 2 weeks, interest rates are dropping and they're down almost a quarter point in 2 weeks.
That is great.
We're really glad to see that. So that's good news.
And like we projected, probably by April, you'll see a little more downtrend, hopefully.
Now, the Fed meets on Wednesday. We don't think that they're going to drop the federal funds rate on this one. So nobody thinks that they're going to do that. Inflation is still, it's lower. It's in the 3% range, but they wanted it too. And they're going to hold steady to that right there. Now, as far as like for folks who are looking to move, they're looking to, when they sell and buy, they're buying farther away. We've seen this trend going on. And so it's not a massive shift, but we are seeing where a lot of sellers are looking to move out of state, even out of city kind of thing, or out of county. Very few are moving out of country more. That's about the same. But like we are moving farther now. And we've seen that.
And based on my feedback with a couple of my friends that are going to move, they're moving back to where they originally met their spouse or their hometown.
Home prices have posted their biggest increases in nearly a year and a half. So we're seeing where property value appreciation is really, really strong. Matter of fact, how much has that risen since the year 2000? So the last
46% in Georgia.
So, but you can see that for the most part, especially in the South, I mean, gosh, most places in the US, that value appreciation is really, really strong. So 150% appreciation. This is why we buy homes. This is why you buy versus rent right here. Now, the other good news we see is even though prices are still holding steady, new listings are increasing. New listings are increasing.
That's a beautiful thing.
Right. And so we have a whole influx of sellers right in time for our spring buying market. And this is a really good thing for us to be. And so you can see that new listings are up about 32% right now, which is a great thing. Overall, that's affecting our total inventory. So you can see that we're finally up over the last several years in total inventory. We're not where we need to be. We're nowhere near. I mean, you can see back where we were in 2019. Big change still. So now of that inventory, we are one of the top 10 metros with an increase in listings in that $200,000 to $350,000 category. And it might be hard to get your head around it, but that's our first time buyer range now, right? Anything in that 2 to 350 range. So we are, I mean, well, we're number 7 on the highest number of first time buyer listings value range. We also come in as a top MSA for housing demand. We come in at number 9 on overall demand. So we're sitting in a really, really good place. Like we have interest rates coming down, inventory increasing, and prices holding really steady. This is a really good thing for us overall. Now, as far as at the same time, we have almost 25%, 22.6% of our listings that are taking a price cut. So we still have some sellers that think I can just get whatever price I want for it out there. Now we're seeing that for even though we know that values are still holding steady, you just can't name a price and get it out there.
And because the buyer perception is that this home is not worth the price the seller's dictating.
Yeah. Now, I did want to share with you this headline. So this is from Adam. They release U.S. foreclosure activities continues to see an annual increase. And every time they do a headline like this, we get so many people like foreclosures are going up. Foreclosures are going up. And so, yes, foreclosures may be up from where it was last year, but compared to where we are historically, we're at some of the lowest levels at the same time. And in Georgia, foreclosure activity is down 52%. So remember, real estate's still local.
It is.
Right? It's try and find a foreclosure home. I think there's like 5 foreclosures in this. I mean, 5 homes on the HUD home store right now in Georgia.
And the foreclosure is based on the market that had overstated their income or their value, and therefore, unfortunately, when we're in a high interest rate market, it does affect the pricing of a home.
Yeah. So we're also seeing where rents are now increasing, and rents are but this is seasonal. This is normal. Rents normally increase this time of year.
In summer, yes.
So we are seeing that, but again, makes home ownership look a lot smarter. Also, don't forget your Max One Market for all your Max One swag. Yep. Now this week on Tuesday we got That's What She Said, effective communication in real estate. That's what she said. And then on
our McDonough office.
Yeah, it's in McDonough. Wednesday's going to be Georgia MLS going over all their products and services. They're going to be talking about Connect MLS and all the different changes.
Please take advantage of that, because
Paragon getting dumped.
Paragon is being dumped, and you need to understand how to operate Georgia MLS Connect. If you don't, you're at a disadvantage, and you're really not doing yourself a service in that.
And then licensed law for agents and brokers, that's going to be in person at Carrollton. Who's teaching that?
Either Martin or I.
We don't know.
One of us will.
One of us will. That works out great. So again, don't get all bent out of shape about what's going on with lawsuits and these kind of things. Take care of your clients. Build relationships with them. We're getting ready to roll out a new top 50 program, which is all about building relationships in real estate. And that's what you really need to be focused on. So please feel free to join us on accountability. We're going to be going over top 50 in all of our offices today and basically every Monday morning. So please take advantage of that as well.
And while some of y'all feel like is not applicable to you, I promise you, take some time, learn your craft.
Yep.
You'll be very successful in this industry.
So have a great week. We love y'all.
Thank you. Happy Monday.
All right. Bye.
Take care.